The President and the Prime Minister can work with the 19th Amendment in place. What is important is to create a new constitution. A statement from Vimal Veeravansha. A constituent party of the government opines about the dual citizenship.
උදාහරණ අපිට දීලා තියෙන නිසා අපි හිතන්නේ ඒ ආරක්ෂාව අපේ රටේ පැවතීම සුදුසුයි කියලා. අපේ රටේ මහජන නීතියක් වෙන්න කැමති නම්, අපේ රටේ මහජන සේවයට දෙන්න කැමති නම් දිටුවරස්කම් අපේරියම ඉවරයි.
Was the tremor that was felt in Kandy the result of human activity? Arjuna Ranatunga says he is ready to take over the leadership of the United National Party.
A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's take a look at the stories in detail now. Minister Vimal Veeravansha has said that drafting a new constitution is more important than introducing an amendment. He made these remarks during a public rally in Piliyandala.
By introducing a new amendment, we can remove the confusion that was created between the President and the Prime Minister through the 19th Amendment. However, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa will not create a problem between themselves, even if the 19th Amendment exists. I feel that more than introducing a new amendment, the most important thing is to make use of the two-thirds majority to bring this country under a new constitution instead of Jayawardena's 1978 constitution that has been amended on several occasions.
Meanwhile, the Yuthukama organization that is allied to the government is of the stance that the provisions on dual citizenship must remain unchanged.
We have the example of Arjuna Mahendran. When he went back to Singapore, the obstructions that we faced in extraditing him is that he is a Singaporean citizen and that there is a question as to whether he is a Sri Lankan. When a person commits a crime in our country and goes back to their land of citizenship, the protection received by him as a citizen of that state is a severe obstruction. We feel that this protection is required in the country. If a person wants to become a public representative in our country and if he wants to be a part of the public service, they can renounce their citizenship in a foreign country. The stance of the Yuthukama organization is that it would be appropriate if a person who is enthusiastic about serving the people can take up that task by giving up their dual citizenship.
ඒ මහජන සේවයට යොමු වීම වඩා සුදුසුයි කියන එක තමයි තුකම සංවිධානයේ හැටියට අපේ මතය.
බාධානතුමාගේ විදි කියනවා මේ ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව ධානම් පාරක සංශෝධනය කරලා තියෙන්නේ අලුතෙන් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව හදන්න අවුරුදු 50කට වෙනස් කරන්න බැරි දෙන්නේ. කතානායකතුමාගේ ඒ කතාවට මම එකඟයි. එහෙම කරනවා නම්.
I agree with the speaker's statement, but I don't feel they would do it. They only want to abolish the 19th Amendment. Once that is done, the politicians will receive vast dictatorial powers. They are trying to implement a plan to vest these powers with these politicians. They will bring forward what the family wants. And not only that, they will also bring forth what politicians want. After that is done, the government politicians will exercise autocratic powers. We feel that this is what is going to happen. Otherwise, if they are drafting a new constitution with a genuine intention of doing that, it would be good. We are ready to pledge our complete support towards that matter.
The Chinese embassy in Colombo has hit back at sanctions imposed by the US on 24 Chinese companies, including the entity involved in constructing the Colombo port city.
The US had imposed these sanctions, making it illegal for American companies to export products to these entities without a government license. It is the first time the US has sanctioned Chinese companies involved in building artificial islands in the South China Sea. China has constructed artificial islands in the South China Seas, including the Fiery Cross Reef, Subi Reef, and the port city in the seas of Sri Lanka. This decision will affect China Communications Construction Company, that is the parent company of China Harbour Engineering Company, that is constructing the Colombo port. The parent company had been previously involved in the construction of the Hambantota port and the Mattala International Airport. Another subsidiary, Shanghai Zhenhua Heavy Industries Company, recently supplied cranes to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. The Chinese embassy said that normal business cooperation by licensed companies or individuals from China and Sri Lanka will not be affected by such unilateral and unjust sanctions from a third-party country. The sanctions have targeted companies and individuals involved with construction in the South China Sea, particularly the building of artificial islands as part of the One Belt, One Road initiative. He added that US sanctions, which involve typical hegemonic logic and power politics, have blatantly interfered in China's internal affairs, violated international law and norms governing international relations. The Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka met with the newly appointed cabinet ministers individually and held discussions. Ambassador Hu Wei, who called on Health Minister Pavitra Vanniarachi recently, said the Chinese government commended the Sri Lankan government's response to the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. Ambassador Hu Wei had informed Minister Pavitra Vanniarachi that China would support all the programs of Sri Lanka's new government. The Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka had also held discussions with the Minister of Education, Professor G.L. Piris, recently. The meeting focused on a long-term plan to develop Sri Lanka's education system and the possible support that can be extended by the Chinese government to implement such measures.
Samagi Jana Balawege MP Manusha Nanakara made the following revelation during a media briefing in Galle today.
There are consulates of Sri Lanka's Foreign Employment Bureau in 14 countries. Many of the staff members attached to these offices have returned to Sri Lanka. According to the Foreign Employment Bureau, the staff have been brought back due to the high costs incurred at the consulates. At a time when expatriate workers are trying to return to Sri Lanka and are facing several issues to do so, who will address their problems? If the staff at the consulates are brought back, who will look after our expatriate workers? Who will address their employment issues? We are not aware of the government's intention in this regard. However, in our view, the decision to shut down the consulates is disappointing.
When News First inquired about this matter, the Deputy General Manager of the Foreign Employment Bureau, Mangala Randhaniya, said that only the additional employees have been called back to Sri Lanka.
More local and international stories come your way on the other side of this short commercial break. Stay with News First.
You know, පත්තරේ පිටු කාලක ඇඩ් එකක් වුණත් ලක්ෂ ගාණක්. හැබැයි ජොබ් සල්ලි වල මුළු පිටුවටම 5000යි.
jobsally.com එකම සිංහල ජොබ් සයිට් එක.
අමතක වුණා. පළවෙනි ඇඩ් එක නොමිලේ.
The news. Geologists suspect that the tremor experienced in the Gurudeniya and Rajavalle areas in Kandy last night is not a natural occurrence. However, they pointed out that there should be an investigation into the incident.
The tremor had been experienced in the Gurudeniya and Rajavalle areas that are located on both sides of the Mahavali River. The Victoria Reservoir is also located between 10 to 12 kilometers from the area.
8:25ට වගේ සද්දයක් ඇහුණා. ඊට පස්සේ පොළොවේ හෙල්ලුණා. ඉතින් අපි ඔක්කොම බය වෙලා හිටියා.
ලොකු සද්දයක් ආවා. මෙම ප්‍රදේශයේ වික්ටෝරියා ජලාශයක් තියෙනවා. අපිට ඒ බිය තමයි උගක්ම පත් උනේ බියට පත් උනේ. අපි හිතුවේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා බෝම්බයක් වෙන්න ඇති කියලා.
බෝම්බයක් ගහනවා වගේ ලොකු සද්දයක් ආවා දීන් ගාලා. ඊට පස්සේ නිකන් ගෙවල් වල දොරවල් ජනෙල් එහෙම මේ පොඩ හෙල්ලෙන්න ගත්තා. ඒ කරලා නිකන් මේ පොළොවේ යටින් මේ පල්ලෙහා පැත්තට මේ ගියා ඒ සද්දේ. එක විනාඩියක් ඇතුළත ඔක්කොම මේ සද්ද ඉවර වුණා.
ලොකු මගේ බ්ලාස්ට් එකක් කියලා. මොකද කියලා දන්නේ නැහනේ.
ඒක නම් අපි හොයා බැලුවා.
We inquired into this. At that time, an earthquake had not occurred in any part of the world. A similar tremor was felt in the area some time back as well. However, that was after heavy rains were experienced in the region. Once the reservoir was full, we experienced similar tremors. We assumed that these dams cannot hold large capacities of water and that it has led to the tremor. However, there is nothing like that. Therefore, we can't connect this issue to the reservoir. We feel this tremor was caused due to something else. The Geological Survey and Mines Bureau has launched a special investigation into this incident. We have 4 seismic data centers in Pallekele, Mahakanadarawa near Mihintale, Hakmana in Matara and Buddangala in Ampara. If an earthquake had occurred due to the clashing of tectonic plates, then it would have been recorded in all 4 seismic data centers. However, yesterday's incident had been recorded only as a minor incident in Pallekele. Therefore, we know that this is not a natural earthquake. We could have identified the focal point of the earthquake if it was recorded in all 4 centers. However, it had not been recorded. We had to identify it by zooming. The committee appointed to investigate the incident suspects that 3 reasons might have led to the tremor. They say it could have been caused due to a rock quarry, the collapse of limestones, or high water pressure in the reservoir. A 2-member committee including geology experts that is carrying out a probe to determine the exact cause of the incident is currently engaged in an inspection tour in the area.
News First has reported on the large-scale sand mining taking place in Kantale near the Mahavali River on several locations. And even to date, the sand mining still continues.
The sand mining takes place near the Mahavali River in Suryapura, inside the Somavati Forest Reserve. It has been claimed that the income generated by the sand mining operations will be used to construct a protective dam between the Mahavali River and Suryapura village. Permits for the sand mining operation have been issued by the Mahavali Authority, the Forest Department, the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau and the Wildlife Department, while officials of the relevant institutions must supervise the mining operations. Furthermore, the conditions of the project also state that sand mining should not take place on Sundays. However, sand mining activities in the Tunmodra area in Kantale were carried out even today without the supervision of any responsible officer. According to our correspondent, nearly 400 tipper trucks travel approximately 4 kilometers through the Somavati Forest Reserve daily for the transportation of sand. When the media visited the site to report on this matter today, a group of individuals attempted to obstruct them.
කවුද යන්න දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? පොඩ එන්න මම අහලා කියන්න. මම මීඩියා එක ඇතුළට යන්න බෑද අපිට? ඇයි ඒ? ඇතුළට යන්න අවසර නැත. ඒ කියන්නේ? ඒ කියන්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් මුල් ලකුර. මම දන්නේ නැහැ ඇහුවා. මට එහෙම එකක් නෑ.
මේ රටේ ඉන්න මැරයෝ ගෙනල්ලා ඔතෙන්ට ඒ මාධ්‍ය වේදිකයකට යන්න බැරි තත්ත්වෙට මේ සෝමාවතිය ජාතික රක්ෂිතයට ඇතුල් වෙන්න බෑ. එතන වැලි කොට දාන්න බෑ.
Our correspondent said sand is being excavated beyond the boundaries that have been demarcated for sand mining. Our correspondent said the distance between the pumping station near the Mahavali River in Suryapura and the excavation site is less than 1 kilometer. The water supplied to the Kantale water board from the Suryapura water pumping station is distributed to the entire Trincomalee district. Locals claim that the water being supplied to the area has been polluted due to the large-scale sand mining taking place. Although the problem was pointed out on several occasions, a solution is yet to be provided.
ජල පවිත්‍ර කරන උපකරණ පවා අබිලි බවට පත් වෙනවා. මිලියන 40ක් 50ක් විතර වටිනා පොම්පයක් ඉවත් කරන්න සිද්ධ වුණා වැලි එක්ක ජලය ආපු නිසා.
Measures have been taken to address the issues about the Lanka Road and the Ramsar wetland in Anavilundava, which emerged as environmentally sensitive issues in the recent past. And it is now time to look into the large-scale sand mining taking place in Kantale. Mr. President, this is for your attention.
The central bank has introduced a system of digital transactions that would gradually reduce the usage of currency notes and coins. Steps have been taken to launch this project after the year 2020 was declared as the year of digital transactions.
Days Gum at the Door-to-Door initiative began from Viharagama in Matale with the participation of central bank officials. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has joined this year's initiative to create awareness on systems of online transactions that is replacing the circulation of money. The Central Bank's Director of Payment and Settlement, Dharmasiri Kumartunga, praised the people about this growing trend today.
මේක කඩේ තියෙන්නත් පුළුවනි මේ බෝඩ් එක වගේ එක. එහෙම නැතිනම් මේ වගේ එකක් මැෂින් එකක් කඩේ තියෙනවා. විදුලි බිල ගෙවන්න යන්න එපා. හැමතැනම බැංකුවට යන්න එපා. ගෙදරින්ම කරගන්න පුළුවනි.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Sanasa Development Bank, Tilak Piyadigama, and other bank officials were part of the endeavour. The officials provided a clear explanation on business transactions that are being carried out using QR code technology. The people actively participated in the program. This is the 5th edition of the Gum at the Door-to-Door initiative that lends an ear to the issues faced by the people. Our teams toured the districts of Matale, Kalutara and Jaffna together with the officials of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and students of the University of Peradeniya.
For time for a short commercial break, stay with News First. We will be right back.
You know, පත්තරේ පිටු කාලක ඇඩ් එකක් වුණත් ලක්ෂ ගාණක්. හැබැයි ජොබ් සල්ලි වල මුළු පිටුවටම 5000යි.
jobsally.com එකම සිංහල ජොබ් සයිට් එක.
අමතක වුණා. පළවෙනි ඇඩ් එක නොමිලේ.
Welcome back to the news. The issues pertaining to the leadership and the national list seat of the United National Party have not been resolved yet. 7 names have been proposed for the party leadership at present. Former Speaker Karujaya Surya has expressed willingness to take over the party leadership, becoming the 8th person to vie for the post.
Ruwan Wijewardena, Arjuna Ranatunga, Vajira Abewardena, Ravi Karunanayaka, Akhila Viraj Karyavasam, Naveen Disanayaka and Daya Gamage have been proposed for the party leadership. Karujaya Surya is another candidate who has expressed willingness to contest for the party's top post.
Everyone has their own aspirations. I feel that it is the people who must choose leaders. Otherwise, one must not greedily seek the leadership of the party, stating that their past generations have been in the party, or by pointing out the activities that they have done. I have been the captain of a sports team. I know how I was appointed to the position. I received that post as I was talented. Before Sajith Premadasa left this party, I tried my best to unite our team, because if we were united, we would be in a much better position than what we are in now. However, the people here had different plans. Those are now coming to light. We can see that those who are not willing to keep the party united are implementing a plan to hand over the position to their friends and allies. I could have gone to several other places. I didn't take some political decisions because the party supporters at village levels took care of me. During the working committee meeting, I expressed regret over the notion that a wealthy person must be appointed as party leader. There is a group that has not contested an election. I feel that this must change. We must change this and join hands to move forward. If the party decides to hand over this position to me, I am willing to accept that. However, I am not a wealthy person. I am not a person who can go behind businessmen and find money. However, I know how to rebuild this party by going to the people.
Ruwan Wijewardena, who expressed willingness to take over as party leader, paid respects to the Mahanayaka Theros of the Asgiri and Malwatu chapters of the Siam sect.
නව නායකත්වයට රුවන් විජේවර්ධන මහතා මේනකට ඇඳුම් මාලා ඉවරද?
The organizers of our party have been contacting me over the last few days. They asked me to come forward as the leader. I decided to step forward to contest for the post of leader based on their requests.
නායකත්වයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා කියලා මං තීරණයක් ගත්තා.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහතාට නායකත්වය දුන්නේ නැත්තේ ඥාති පුත්‍රයා වන රුවන් විජේවර්ධනට පක්ෂ නායකත්වය දෙන්න රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතාගේ සලස්ම කියලා කියනවා ඇත්තද?
ඒක නම්
I can't accept that. That is a blatant lie. I have never put forward my name for all these years.
ඔක මගේ නම ඉදිරිපත් කරුවේ නැහැ මෙච්චර කලක්.
රංජිත් මද්දුම් බණ්ඩාර මහතා ප්‍රකාශ කරලා තිනවා මේ රැස්වීමකදී එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයත් එකතු කරගෙන සමගි ජනබලවේගයේ සන්දානයකට යමු කියලා. ඔබතුමා නායකත්වයට આવොත් එවැනි සන්දානයකට ආරාධනා කළොත් යනවද?
කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
There is no problem in that. It is a breakaway faction of the United National Party that is in the Samagi Janabalawegya. Therefore, I feel that we are ready to make the right decision on behalf of the country by discussing it with them.
අවරයක් හරි තීරණයක් ගන්නට පුළුවන් කියලා මං හිතනවා.
Meanwhile, former Minister Vajira Abewardena also paid respects to the Mahanayaka Theros of the Asgiri and Malwatu chapters. Journalists questioned former Speaker Karujaya Surya about the party leadership after he attended a graduation ceremony of the Ramanya Nikaya.
නායකත්වයේ තිබිට ඒකත් මම මගහරින් මාධ්‍යම කරන්නේ අපි හොඳට සලකන මාධ්‍යයට ඉතින් අපි මාධ්‍ය ගෞරවය තියාගන්න මගේ පෞද්ගලික මතයනේ මම මෙච්චර කාල දුන්නේ නැත්නම් වොයිස් කාඩ් ඒක ඔක්කොම දෙයක් කියන්නේ ඔබතුමා මොකද නායකත්වය නිසයි මේ කතා කරන්නේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ නායකත්වය ඔබතුමා එනවා කියන නිසා කතා කරන්නේ දැන් ඉතින් ඔබතුමාට ස්තුති කරනවා පැමිණි මම ප්‍රශ්න අසීම සම්මත මම ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් එක වොයිස් කාඩ් කරන් දීලා නැහැ ඒක තමයි මගේ මේ පෞද්ගලික නිදහස වල ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න දෙන්න ඒක වෙන්නේ ඔබතුමාගේ මතනායකවරයා විදියට මාධ්‍යට කතා නොකරට කතා කරනවා මම වෙලාවට කතා කරනවා යම් දවස් කතාවක් දෙන්න තෝරන නේද දේශපාලනය මම ඒ කොහොම පහදලා කරන දෙනවා ඉදිරියේ තියෙනවා මේ ප්‍රෙස් එකක්. ඒතර මම කියන්නේ නායකත්වයට දැන් වෙන කෙනෙක් ඉදිරියේ ප්‍රෙස් එකක් තියෙනවා. හරිනේ. ඒකෝලේ අඬ ගහන්න. තෙරුවන් සරණයි හරිනේ.
මේ කරු ජයසූරිය මහත්තයාටත් අපි පෞගිය කාලෙම කිව්වා.
We told Karu Jayasuriya on several occasions that he will not be given the party leadership. Ranil Wickremesinghe will not give up leadership either. We saw how you went with 18 others to strengthen the other camp. Although you came back, the others didn't. Even your son-in-law only came back by the end of 2004. So how can you be given the party leadership? The UNP should establish itself as the gall branch of the SLPP rather than giving the party leadership to individuals like Vajira Bewardhana. We saw that in the Good Governance administration, they worked as ministers in the government but for the benefit of the opposition. We saw the deals and relationships they maintained. When serious cases were being heard at court such as the Avantgarde case, we saw that witnesses that included the ministry secretary and additional secretary had gone overseas. They have neither obtained leave, nor have their leave been approved. They went overseas without the knowledge of the minister while the courts hunted for them. We saw how they prepared passports. Some had US citizenship, but they applied for passports through their ministries. Who are the ministers in those ministries? That is why people saw that the ministers in the Good Governance government work for the opposition. This is an extension of that.
හැබැයි වැඩ කළ විපක්ෂයත් එක්ක මේ ඒක මේ කරන්නේ මේ ඒකේ තව දිගුවක්.
Leader of the Communist Party, former Minister D.E.W. Gunasekara, resigned from his post today following prior notice to the party's working committee. D.E.W. Gunasekara then proposed the name of Dr. G. Veerasinghe for the post vacated by him. According to a media release by the party, the working committee had unanimously seconded the proposal to appoint Dr. G. Veerasinghe as the party's new leader. Accordingly, Dr. G. Veerasinghe was appointed as the Sri Lanka Communist Party's new General Secretary, the leadership position of the party.
1999 වගේ කාලේ තමයි ෆිඩෙල් කැස්ට්‍රෝ සහෝදරයා ප්‍රකාශ කළේ.
It was in 1999 that Fidel Castro said that the path that the world would move in the future will depend on ideologies. Therefore, the struggle of ideologies is what the party must focus on. Matters pertaining to this was discussed at the working committee meeting. The committee also discussed about quick decisions that we need to make. We will be working on new ideas in the future.
අනිද්දා සිටම මේ නව මේ අදහස් සමග වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්නට අප ක්‍රියා.
The police carried out several raids today. Details of this story and more coming up after the break.
You know, පත්තරේ පිටු කාලක ඇඩ් එකක් වුණත් ලක්ෂ ගාණක්. හැබැයි ජොබ් සල්ලි වල මුළු පිටුවටම 5000යි.
jobsally.com එකම සිංහල ජොබ් සයිට් එක.
අමතක වුණා. පළවෙනි ඇඩ් එක නොමිලේ.
Welcome back. You're watching News First. A soldier attached to the Yaskiri Mahaviharya was severely injured in an accident that took place this morning.
The victim who suffered injuries in the accident is a soldier attached to the Asgiri Mahaviharya. The main door at the entrance was also damaged due to the accident. Our correspondent reported that the driver of the motor vehicle was on his way to the premises of the temple when the vehicle had crashed as the driver was unable to control its speed. The driver of the vehicle has been arrested by the Kandy police, while the injured soldier is currently being treated at the accident ward of the Kandy National Hospital. The individual who was arrested has been identified as a 55-year-old resident of Peradeniya.
An individual who had allegedly attempted to sexually abuse a British woman who was lodging in the Midigamaturi zone in Matara Baligama has been arrested.
The CCTV unit of the lodge had captured the manner in which the suspect had entered the woman's room. According to the police, the suspect had also stolen money. The suspect had been inside the lodge for about an hour before entering the room of the tourist. Police noted that at the time of the incident, the British national woman was alone in the lodge. The police were able to identify the suspect with the help of CCTV footage, and he was arrested last afternoon.
Yes, so my friend 2 nights ago, she was here sleeping alone, and this guy come inside of the house from the back, and he stays in the house 1 hour, actually more than 1 hour, trying to steal things, and he steal scooter key, money from my friend, and then he gets naked, and then he enter in the room of the friend. We always come here to also help Sri Lanka. We went to the police, and finally they got the guy, and hopefully everything is going to be sorted and this guy can be punished because it's very bad.
The arrested suspect is a 35-year-old resident of the Medigam area.
The police carried out several raids today. A group that is holding a party violating the quarantine laws were among those who were arrested.
The group that was arrested during a Facebook party at a hotel in the Rajambugaha area in Akmimana was remanded until the 9th of September. 26 men and 2 women who organized the party were arrested in this manner. The group, who are between the ages of 18 and 27, are residents of Matale, Kandi, Uhana, Deniaya, Morotua, Badulla and Walahanduwa. 12 grams of cannabis were recovered from the possession of 6 of the suspects. The group was produced before courts today on charges of illegally possessing narcotics and for violating quarantine laws. 2 suspects who were maintaining a marijuana field in a 25-acre plot in the Katueva area in Sevanagala were arrested today. The suspects were taken into custody following a tip-off received by DIG Lalit Patinaika. The suspects had used the water from a nearby stream to cultivate the marijuana, and the police had taken over 1 kilogram of marijuana into custody. A 32-year-old individual who had 3 kilograms of Kerala cannabis worth 510,000 rupees and 3 grams of ice in his possession has been arrested by the Navagamma police in Vellampitiya. According to the police, the suspect is an accomplice of Angudalokka. The suspect had been allegedly operating under Ishara Lakmal, a senior accomplice of Angudalokka. The Mirihana police said that they had also taken into custody 69,300 rupees, 3 luxury vehicles with changed number plates, 4 mobile phones and a laptop that were in the possession of the suspect. The Ganemulla police have arrested an individual who had sold drugs to school children in the area. According to our correspondent, the suspect, who is known as Hurubuhutia, had been hiding drugs inside face masks. The police have taken 7 packets of heroin in his possession.
Moving on to news overseas, Russian President Vladimir Putin used a birthday phone call to invite Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko to visit Moscow, a Kremlin show of support as thousands of protesters streamed into central Minsk demanding Lukashenko step down.
President Lukashenko, who turned 66 today, is struggling to contain 3 weeks of protests and strikes since winning an August 9th election that his opponents say was rigged. He denies electoral fraud and has said the protests are backed from abroad. Thousands of people, many waving red and white opposition flags and chanting "Long live Belarus," marched towards Minsk's Independence Square, which was cordoned off by police in anticipation of the protests. Passing cars honked their horns in solidarity with the protesters. According to an eyewitness, police detained at least a dozen of people. Other protesters were seen resisting arrest by what appeared to be officers in plain clothes.
One person has been shot dead in Oregon as large procession of supporters of President Trump clashed with Black Lives Matter protesters in Portland.
Visuals obtained from the scene showed medics trying to save what appeared to be a white man. Police had not given an identity or specified whether the shooting was directly linked to the clashes which broke out in a downtown area. Portland streets have been the scene of frequent protests in recent weeks. The city has become a focus for demonstrations against police brutality and racism since the police killing of African-American George Floyd in Minneapolis on the 25th of May, which triggered a wave of national and international outrage. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is to visit the city in Wisconsin, which has seen widespread unrest since a black man was shot in the back and seriously injured by a policeman. The White House said Trump will travel to Kenosha on Tuesday. The president will meet with law enforcement officers and assess the damage from the recent protests. Jacob Blake was paralyzed after being shot 7 times by an officer, and it is not clear if he will walk again.
According to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University, global coronavirus cases surged past 25 million and 16.4 million have recovered. More than 842,400 people have died.
India's health ministry announced at least 78,761 new infections in 24 hours, setting a new daily record worldwide. It also reported 63,000 deaths from the virus since the pandemic began. India has now recorded 3.5 million cases in total, behind Brazil and the United States. Officials say India's comparatively low rate of testing also means it is not capturing the full impact of the virus. Brazil's Ministry of Health has reported at least 758 additional coronavirus fatalities during the last 24 hours, with 41,350 new cases, bringing the death toll to 120,262 and the confirmed cases to 3,846,153.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. For the News First team, I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka, together with our interpreter this evening, Taraka Gabriel. Good night.
TV1 News First, main sponsor.
100% Middlesex University British degree with no compromise in Sri Lanka.